That's right. Yeah, we might be.
Welcome back to Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. We're going to do a lot of that today, but we must go to the breaking story. Aliens are found down in Mexico. Actually, it was from Peru. Pull the story up. This is so true. I mean, come on. You have to believe this. 1,000-year-old alien, right? So we're not going to talk about Hunter Biden, the new Mexico governor, the talking points delivered to the White House, Romney resigning, and Trump being taken off the ballot. Not going to talk about it. We have to talk about this alien for the next 2 hours. So joining me, I'm just teasing. We're definitely not talking about that bullshit. Broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast. Joining me, as always, part of the political junkie crew, Mega Jesse. How you doing there, buddy?
Yeah, doing good, especially with this Trump indictment. You know, what they're trying to do with Trump getting him off the ballot here in Minnesota. Somebody's got to expose the fraud that's going on there. So happy to be here, and yeah, we got some truth to expose.
And commenting on the news is an expert in medicine and science, an expert on guns, and just what he's not an expert on, he's pretty darn close. I feel really confident, Neil Shaw, that pretty much anything I bring up today, you'll have an opinion on.
Well, I was brought here under false pretenses. I thought we were talking about aliens.
Yeah,
So,
that was going to be the scientific revelation. Was we have a scientist in here, Mayo trained too. Do you know that we had a episode taken down by YouTube that you were on?
Wow.
Mayo trained doctor, but they knew better than you about medical misinformation.
That's phenomenal. I would love them to point out the misinformation.
Well, of course they don't. You just basically email back to nothing. So there you go, Mr. Misinformation right there.
Incredible.
I guess. Mark Anderson, we don't have Bridget here today. Dead aliens matter. That's true. Very true. I like that. Mark Anderson, real patriot from up in northern Minnesota and also southern part of the continental United States. When it's convenient, he flies down to Florida, right? He's one of those types. Gosh, no one wants to have the winters up here, I guess, right? I bet you Tucker stays here for the winter. Running the dials as always, Mr. Deep State himself, Dawson. How you doing there, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. Nintendo announced like 5 games that I'm super hyped for, so I'm living large today.
There you go. That's all they need to do, distract us with games, right?
I'm distracted.
Okay, very good. Before I forget, I won't be here for the next 2 weeks in studio. So Jesse is going to be doing a show. I think William's going to do it with you. It's going to be called Jesse Talks Truth. Tuesday and Thursday night, 7:00 p.m. Okay,
You
we're
got
gonna
it.
we're gonna go in the evening. It's going to be good. I'll just put it that way. So I'll be back after that. So you'll still get your daily dose of bi-daily dose of Jesse. So those will be Tuesday.
Yeah,
and
looking
Thursday
forward
nights.
to it. Should be a lot of fun. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
Dead aliens didn't get their COVID boosters. Tucker says that's great stuff. If you want to interrupt us at any point, go ahead and click that Rumble rant, $10 or more, and we will interrupt and read your comment. We appreciate all you guys listening. The first story we're going to bring to you, I don't think you're getting this from anywhere else right now, okay? You all know there's a gang of people, rhinos and Dems, that have actually sued the Secretary of State to get Trump off the ballot in Minnesota. They're citing the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Was it 78 pages of that lawsuit? I think?
Yeah, it's something like that.
Okay. So first of all, I don't know if anyone's pointed this out. Let's go to the article, actionforlibert.com. We didn't publish the story yet, did we?
Not yet.
Let me do this live here because.
Yeah, I can publish it too. I got it right up front.
Okay.
So.
Please publish this.
Is this the right one?
Well, yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
So this is at actionforlibert.com. And scroll down just real quick, Dawson. You'll see where the lawsuit is. The hyperlink lawsuit. Click on that lawsuit. And here you go. You actually got, what does it say up in the corner? Where does it say? 70 some? No, top left, I guess. What does that say? How many pages is this thing?
What?
Top left. Go back to the top left.
This is the top.
Yeah, it says how many pages are at the top of the
Yeah,
Dawson.
for some reason it's hidden now off the screen. Scroll down the bottom. What does it say when the numbering? It's a there you go.
1 of 84.
Okay, 1 of 84.
Yep.
I was close. 84-page lawsuit, and those are the petitioners. Media's report about Paul Anderson being a former Republican-appointed Supreme Court justice. David Thule, who was a former chairman of Steele County. Is that correct?
Yep, Steele County.
And basically Trump hater. Okay. A bunch of Democrats on there, including Joan Grow. So they're actually suing, and this is how you do it to any kind of ballot issue. You sue the Secretary of State. And I don't think this has been pointed out. So obviously you got a bunch of Trump haters suing the Secretary of State. Well, first of all, Secretary of State, anti-Trump Democrat, Steve Simon, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't go into court. He doesn't represent himself in court. Guess who represents him in court? Antifa-loving Marxist Keith Ellison. That's who supports the state in court.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, Trump being on the ballot in Minnesota, the argument to keep him on the ballot will be fielded by Keith Ellison.
I'm sure he'll do a great job defending the Constitution.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Constitution, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Amazing.
they argue the Constitution says he can't be on the ballot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here you go. You got Keith Ellison, now the last line of hope, assuming the judge has some rationale and some, him, I hate to assume gender. Maybe it's a female. I don't know. But the judge is the last line of defense to keep him on the ballot. I assume this thing will get thrown out. I don't know.
Well, it ultimately doesn't matter. One of these are copy and paste lawsuits that are being filed across the nation. So they're going to end up at SCOTUS's desk and the Supreme Court will have to decide on it. But, it's just another disturbing trend in our country to see that someone who clearly did not participate in insurrection by any definition of that word, any actual definition of that word, is going to arbitrarily be excluded from running for office. And as it looks right now, he's the most likely candidate. So there won't be anyone.
Yeah,
You'll-
and that's
you'll
the thing.
get,
If he really
Joe
tried
Biden
to overthrow
only?
the government, if he really tried an insurrection, the people would be able to suss that out, and nobody would support him if that was the case. But it's obvious that they're trying to do everything they can against him. And you're right that this is a national effort. It's copy paste lawsuits all around the country. This Free Speech for People, that's the name of this group that has the 14.3 plan, which is all about the 14th Amendment, Section 3, which they're trying to use to disqualify President Trump from the ballots. It's funny that they call themselves Free Speech for People because one of our most fundamental rights and one of the most basic examples of ways that we can use our speech is our vote. The vote is the most sacred thing that we have in our country that we, the citizens, we, the people, can use against the government or, just expressing our opinions and letting our voice be heard. The fact that this group wants to limit that ability shows they're not for free speech. They're just against Trump. That's all this is all about.
Mm-hmm. I have to mention that, this is why I call him Deep State Dawson. He throws out the video game. People like Mark Anderson say, what does Ellison care? The trend of the country is that laws do not matter. And that's true. And, Mark and the people here on the show are trying to have a real conversation on politics. Meanwhile, Dawson's steering people to video games.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like Tucker and, let's see.
GoldenEye is iconic.
Based Minnesota. Yeah, I know.
Good
I
call.
actually said that to him.
Yeah.
Because he alludes to, well, see, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're trying to distract us. The alien thing didn't work.
Yeah.
I've never played GoldenEye. I really need to.
Oh, man,
It's actually
so
on the
good.
Switch right now.
It's really good. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
I
mean,
That's
it's-
our
it's-
generation.
Yeah. Just like who were we talking about with Duke Nukem before? I mean, you have to be able to at least understand the importance of those games, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those games have a lot to do with politics too, don't they?
No, shut up. All right, so let's go on to the story here. It gets even more interesting. So on this, let's go back to that lawsuit. Look who's behind the lawsuit. Yeah, click on. There you go.
Wrong one.
Nope, wrong story. Yep, right there. Scroll to the very bottom. The law firm that is covering this lawsuit. So the attorney on record is Charles Newen. I don't know how you pronounce it, but Lockridge Grindle Newen. Now, you guys probably don't follow this stuff like we do, but this is a leftist Democrat law firm. So these rhinos are working with a far left law firm to remove Trump from. Basically, I gotta stop saying remove Trump from the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening here is removing your choice in supporting Donald Trump. Okay, I know not everyone here is
Right,
supporting
and
Donald
both
Trump.
for the primary and general. So not only
Correct.
are they telling us that, us as voters in the primary can't decide, but they think that, they can disqualify someone. Let's say, as of now, it looks like Trump is going to be the Republican candidate against Biden or whoever the Democrats are dumb enough to nominate. So what would that mean in a practical sense? Would that mean that there's only Biden and third parties on the ballot? Are we not allowed to vote for Trump in that situation? It's going to get crazy, but I'm hoping this won't end up happening.
And more than this one election, they're attempting to twist and pervert the Constitution's language as a test case for when in the future they could just say, well, so-and-so's rhetoric, I believe, reached the level of inciting rebellion and insurrection because it was too full of disinformation and misinformation.
Right.
And therefore they should be excluded. They just didn't like something they said.
Right. Yeah, this is
the test
bad
case
precedent.
Yeah. So regardless of whether you like Trump or don't like Trump, again, like all these things, the greater issue is that they're completely abusing the peaceful transfer of power to say that there can only be one candidate on there, or perhaps a second candidate if they're approved by us. Right?
I think that's actually a great point. I mean, I think Bernie Sanders supporters should be taking
Bernie
note of
Sanders
that.
should absolutely. Those supporters were on the short end of the stick the last time around, and it's sad to see that Bernie ultimately kowtowed to what the left wanted. Obviously, I don't think anyone in this room can agree with Bernie on a whole lot of policy, but he has every right to run for office, and he had a ton of support. I mean, it would have been great to see a Trump-Bernie election. I think that's what the people of this country on both sides wanted to see. But then they just called him to heel. Maybe the CIA put some things on his computer to
Right,
chirp in there.
Yeah, and Bernie, he's endorsed Biden already in 2020. Right off the bat, as soon as Biden announced,
Yeah, they brought him to heel. for
right,
good.
and so he didn't utilize any kind of leverage. Same thing with AOC and the Fraud Squad. They didn't use any kind of leverage to try to get any kind of concessions. It shows that they're just run-of-the-mill Democrats at this point, and I'm going to call it now. Bernie Sanders doesn't run for re-election. He's up for re-election this year in Vermont, but you'd think that he would announce by now if he was going to. So I think these liberals are going to lose their hero.
Well, what happened to that party? Like, what happened to the Wellstones of the world, right? Like, people that, again, you could disagree with, but you could respect. There were people who were Kennedy might have been the last great president, right?
I actually think Mark covers that. It's sadly the majority of Minnesota legislators are rhinos, and that's where it is. They went to the Republican side, right?
Yeah.
Because the left's been infiltrated by the Marxists, and they filled up those ranks, so some of those people now creep over into the Republican ranks. That's why we get no change. K-Wall for life, by the way. $10 Rumble Rant saying, cheers to you, Mr. Dependable. K-Wall, most dependable Rumble Ranter of all time. I love it. We should have like an award for best Rumble Ranter. Let's go back to that article, actionforliberty.com. Let's click on Charles Nguyen. I think it's Nguyen. I don't know how much I should care about getting that right. Yeah, click on that right there. This is Charles Nguyen. Obviously, not only a partner, his name's on the damn law firm, Lockridge Grindle Nguyen. This guy, once again, big Democrat. This guy was the attorney. Well, was it him? I'd have to look it up. The law firm under his name was the attorney representing the Democrat Party when they launched a bogus campaign finance complaint against us in 2021. Now, what was our big foul? We went door knocking to legislators' districts saying, stop the emergency powers, vote against it. Every campaign finance board, this is funny that you're in studio for this, Neil. Every CFB complaint against us, bullshit, bogus complaints.
Yep.
The two before we get to the new era of the CFB were dismissed because it was ridiculous, right? So this one got dismissed at the probable cause stage. But it was this law firm, the 10, 20-page, manifesto on how terrible Action for Liberty is and they're breaking campaign finance law done by this law firm. Now, the new age, where we don't have the same fate with the campaign finance board, a weaponized government agency coming against us. This is interesting. Let's go back to that real quick. Look at the where am I going to find this? I want to see about our firm. I'm guessing about our firm, you'll see their staff. Hard for me to see. Is it
Community,
not on there?
diversity, equity, inclusion, pro bono.
Oh, people. Go to the people tab. There you go. Click on
Did
that.
you say they had a DEI program there, Dawson? A diversity, equity?
Do they really?
That's what Dawson just said, right?
Yeah.
Yep, shocker.
Wow.
Yeah, real shocked on that one. All right, so people, scroll down right there. Stop. Go back, click on David Ass. I think it's pronounced ass. It looks like asp, but I think the P is silent. And quite frankly, I'm not going to correct myself. David Ass.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a supposed Republican. Tim Walz appointed this guy to the campaign finance board. So the law firm representing this left-wing law firm, which, by the way, has a DEI on their website, and they're token Republican. I don't know. Is he really a Republican? He's actually the guy, I would imagine, one of the few, probably the guy on the campaign finance board, who's now twice rejected the staff opinion to throw away the cases against us, the bogus campaign finance complaints against us, and continue the witch hunt. Okay? Same guy working for the law firm that's on this about to move. Now, he probably, I don't know, I'm making an assumption here, but he probably is an anti-Trump guy as well. Because he's also working with Kurt Dowd and the Jobs Coalition, the group that put up a big goose egg trying to primary guys like Mark Bishofsky, Eric Mortensen, all the conservative candidates. What was it? What's the guy out?
Mike Weiner.
Mike Weiner, yes.
Pam Aldendorf.
There you go.
They were after all of them.
After all of them, they didn't win them, but they were literally spending money. I think it was over $100,000.
Yeah, that
don't we have
sounds
that in the
familiar.
article? Go back to actionforliberty.com.
Yeah, it says, as we reported, that's the link to that article. The Jobs Coalition serves as the establishment / Kurt Dowd slush fund to back rhinos over endorsed liberty champions, as we reported.
Yeah, scroll down again there.
Yeah, I think as we reported there. Yep.
There you go. Yep. I think he's the attorney of record or probably a founder of the Jobs Coalition, something like that. Put up a big goose egg.
Yeah, chairman.
And let's scroll down here. I think it was $150,000. It was like a lot of money against just Mark Bishofsky alone. And you guys know Mark Bishofsky, a huge patriot. Scroll down a little bit more. By the way, money bundled from the Republican State Leadership Committee.
Yeah.
Keep going down. There's a hit piece on Eric Mortensen. There's a hit piece on Mark Bishofsky.
Yeah.
So
they accused him of being a Democrat. It's so ridiculous. Mark Bishofsky, a Democrat. He's an extreme conservative that was holding the Republican Party accountable. So, it just shows that they're willing to lie and attack anyone in any way.
But it's funny. The evidence they had from being a Democrat was he voted in the Democrat presidential primary, which is funny because a lot of Republicans did that to
I did.
Keep it from Biden.
Yeah, exactly. Try to get the better opponent on the other side. As Minnesota is a non-registered state,
right?
You show up and vote in whichever primary.
Yeah,
right.
I did
and
the same thing. I voted for Tulsi. I would have done it differently going back, but I voted for Tulsi at that time in the primary. So does that make me not a conservative? Am I a Democrat?
RFK Jr. is allowed to be on there. I guarantee you that a lot of Republicans, especially if it looks like Trump's going to run away with 90% of the vote or whatever it is, will be like, well, I'd rather push this and have not Biden.
Right, DeSantis voters, I think, should become RFK Jr. supporters.
Yeah. But here's the argument against it, and this is why they knew Mark Bishofsky did that, because in 2020 was the first time that data is now available. It used to be just a secret ballot. You guys, you probably don't know this at home. You used to go in and no one knew how you voted. Now, when you go in and you request a Republican or a Democrat, I'm sorry, is it two different ballots? It might be two different ballots now. But whatever it is, because it used to be all on one side. It must be two different ballots because it's a presidential primary. I didn't vote in 2020 presidential primary on Super Tuesday. But it's now data that's given to the parties. So somebody inside the party apparatus, Republican or Democrat side, saw Mark Bishofsky voted in that Democrat one.
Yeah.
And then they leaked it to Broadcorp, I think it was, the big hater of anything Republican, and Trump, of course.
Yeah.
And so then he plasters that out there, and then they use this as an attack against
And
him.
actually, they've changed that law again. So now what's going to happen before, in the last few primaries, the Republicans and Democrats would get all of the data. They would know who had voted in both primaries. Now what they just changed it to this recent legislative session, the Democrats only get the Democratic info, so they only get the names and lists of people who voted in the Democrat primary, and the Republicans only get the Republicans. So the Republicans would no longer have access to that information for this election and future elections.
Might not matter, though. Like, they'll probably still leak it.
Oh, yeah.
because
The
it's a
Democrat,
uniparty
and that's
in
the thing.
end.
Ken Martin is best friends with David Hand. It's not like they're not going to talk about ways to take down the anti-establishment people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, basically they hate us. Both sides hate us. I don't think there's ever been a group in Minnesota that's been so hated by both sides than us. And Lockridge Grendel, once again, behind it. So now I wouldn't say we are like necessarily a pro-Trump organization. Jesse makes you think that. We're not. We're kind of impartial, right? But I think you could say we're an America First organization. We're certainly anti-establishment. That's good enough for them. It's all the same thing to them. Take out the people going against the grain, going against the establishment. That's what Trump represents. That's why guys like me, despite the clear flaws I see in Donald Trump, go, yeah, I kind of think I'm voting for Trump, you know? It's just that I haven't talked to you about this. Where are you at? Where's your head at?
I mean, I think that it, what Trump's great contribution to American society and politics is blowing the lid off of what was previously just called wild conspiracy theories about some uniparty. And then you saw it. You saw Republicans and Democrats alike attacking him for policies that were pro-America. And your average person was like, well, maybe I don't like everything what he does, but that policy is definitely pro-America, keeping us out of wars, not killing innocent people in other countries, focusing on improving the economic strength of every American. Those are pro-American policies. That's unimpeachable. You know, payoffs to this hooker, that hooker, some porn star or something, like, fine. You know, the disagreements on that, but you can't say he's not America first. And you got to see people like Mike Pence, who very clearly now is anti-peace, anti-stability in Europe, probably anti-Ukrainian, argue, if you can continue to send those guys in the meat grinder, even 500,000 Russians and Ukrainians dead. You know, he's giving talking points that are no different than Hillary Clinton or Joe Lieberman or any of those neocon hawks that got us into 2 wars, trillions of dollars wasted, thousands of American lives, and millions of lives in other countries.
You know, that just reminded me, I thought there was a story on the Ukraine Minister of Defense was fired.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I heard that too.
Zelensky places Ukrainian defense minister citing need for new approaches 1 week ago. So we are led to believe that Ukraine's doing really well and winning this war against Russia. Well, if they are, you don't replace the minister of defense.
Right.
So, yeah, you're right.
And even
sending him in the
some
meat grinders, what's going on?
That's all they're doing. And look, no one wins in war. I mean, any myth of that should have been smashed in World War One, when all of Europe woke up and realized this is just a terrible meat grinder that just destroys people on both sides. And it's always the poor dying for the rich. That's how war's always been, and these wars are no different. And in Ukraine, it's people being kidnapped and sent to the front lines with minimal to no training to die. I understand that they don't want their country invaded, but they're fighting Russians who've been conscripted and sent to the front lines to die for absolutely nothing, and they're being slaughtered with Western arms. I mean, it's the whole thing. No one is going to win that. And the best thing would be to come to some kind of negotiated settlement. But I guess now maybe there's some whispers of the Biden administration saying, look, this slaughter has to stop. But the American people in general don't understand how bad it's going and how terrible it is for everyone that's involved. And also, what fraction of the Ukrainians that left are actually going to come back to their country? How much of the country do they have to come back to? How to rebuild from that? And every day we just get closer and closer to some spiraling conflagration that leads to wider hostilities in Europe and pulls America in.
Well, yeah, and Kirsten showed me, I don't know why she's done this in the last couple weeks, but she's turned on the evening news. I mean,
yeah,
that should be banned in my household.
Well, it's a different world, right? I mean, I always try to, let's steelman how these people get to the bizarre arguments that are so different from those of us that are involved and read widely.
And get our news from alternative media.
Alternative media, but even just read the other side. Go glance, right?
I know, but I'm just saying it's so pitiful. So she sees on the TV Putin meeting with Kim Jong-un. And I knew about this, right? Yeah. And it's just like, this is what's happening. You want to talk about escalating to World War III?
Yeah. I know, it's becoming even more dangerous because, we know that North Korea, Kim Jong-un, he's not, just selling weapons for money. Who knows what kind of secrets he's getting. Obviously, the big goal of North Korea is, becoming nuclear and advancing their nuclear arsenal and capabilities and everything. So, and that's what I was hearing was in exchange for some of these missiles was, nuclear information. And so, the idea of North Korea becoming even more of a nuclear power in exchange for Ukraine, what are we talking about here?
Well,
it doesn't make sense.
They just launched their first quote unquote, nuclear capable submarine, right? Like, look, I mean, it doesn't take massive technology to make a diesel submarine that can sneak up they're very quiet compared to nuclear submarines, and sling something at, one American city. Like, that's just, we are moving towards less and less stability in the world. And I think the average American person, regardless of how they feel about Trump, I think has probably had it. Conservatives fought and died in the sandbox wars for nothing. And I think those people came back and said, you're not even going to take care of us and our PTSD and our suicide risk and our drug addiction and all this. And for what? Like, what did we do? We slaughtered 1 million Iraqis inadvertently or through sanctions. I mean, how many innocent people in Iran suffer from sanctions that do nothing to change that regime's mind? And this has been American policy for so long. But, hilariously, like these, I'm telling you not talking points, but I'm telling you the truth that would sound like it came out of JFK's mouth. Like the whole like labels of who's anti-war, who's pro-war, who's pro-America have gotten so mixed up that you have people that I think the majority of the population holds anti-war views on both sides, and yet they still find things to talk about. But what could be more important than making sure our kids don't die in a nuclear inferno?
Aliens. That's what's more important is aliens. And apparently to Dawson, new video games, right?
Yes.
Rodeo 55. I haven't watched TV in over 3 years. I have no idea what the MSM says.
Yes.
Scary. There are a lot of people who just watch MSM. And I agree with you that you probably have to watch a little bit. We obviously consume them online. But once you watch the shows, you just realize that Rodeo 55 is missing nothing.
Yep.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Glenn Cotton says, good afternoon from the prairie and sleepy eye, growing to admire Dr. Shaw. I've been admiring him for many years as well.
It's okay, Jake. I won't judge.
Yeah.
You and my wife both. Tucker's correct. Sweden did blow up one of our aircraft carriers, which, by the way, are just gigantic, expensive boondoggles. In an age of cheap diesel subs that can get awfully close and sink our aircraft carriers, and hypersonic missiles, and even ballistic missiles. Those things are just fighting the last war.
Yeah, right.
I want to use this as a great segue to our next story. I've come down with the typical cold. Maybe it's COVID. Lockdown. Let's go lockdown. Better wear a mask, guys. I come down with a typical cold. You're a parent. Every year the kids go back to school. It happens. So I'm a little congested last night. I'm reading this story on CNN, and I go, am I really reading this correctly? Pull up the story here, Dawson.
Sorry, I could be wrong. It looks like there's something breaking with this.
Well,
thing we're
we
talking
must
about right
go
now.
to the breaking story. Hunter Biden has been indicted by the special counsel. Let's go ahead and read that here.
3 federal gun charges. Oh no!
Line on your 4473.
Gun charges, huh?
Okay, well, can't.
Oh, it's watching CNN Live? Well, let's go to CNN Live.
I don't know.
Oh, we have to verify.
Yeah.
Go to YouTube real quick.
Okay. Yep.
Let's look at CNN. I'm
Yeah,
sure
and
they got a YouTube
CNN's
stream.
doing some HBO deal or something like that. It's not going to go good. It's like another CNN Plus failure that's bound to happen.
Yeah, that's
Because
probably
nobody would ever pay to watch CNN. You have to have your eyes taped open and be forced to watch it to consume any of that.
Go to Live. Let's see what happens there. Go to Fox News. If it's about Hunter
sure
Biden, they
everyone's
have to have
covering
it on
it.
Fox.
Yeah. Newsmax.
Newsmax will do that next. There's Live right there. No, that's House Oversight hearing. Go to...
Oh, there you go. Biden delivers remarks on economy and after Hunter's indictment. Well,
yeah, but just type in Hunter's indictment, see if there's some breaking news there.
Right. So we know that he violated 4473, which asks you a question about whether you addicted to any illegal substance, which clearly he was at the time that he filled out that form.
MSNBC.
So he got popped for that, and I wonder what the other one is.
This doesn't look like what we're looking for.
Breaking news now. We have just learned, and we just got the paperwork, that Hunter Biden, the president's son, has been indicted for lying when buying a gun. I want to bring in NBC's Garrett Hake. Garrett, what can you tell us?
Well, Chris, this indictment just unsealed in Delaware charges Hunter Biden with 3 counts, all related to that gun purchase. It describes 2 counts of knowingly making a false or fictitious statement when purchasing a gun, basically accusing him of lying about being addicted to drugs at the time he was purchasing this weapon, pistol, in October of 2018. And the 3rd count is that he did knowingly possess that same firearm while being addicted to a controlled substance. So these are counts that were all thought to have been dealt with in that plea deal that fell apart a couple of months ago, kicking things back to the U.S. attorney.
No big story here, really. We knew about this already. It's interesting in that plea deal, he wasn't being charged. He was being charged like down to misdemeanor or something like that.
Yeah, and these are 10-year felonies, right? I mean, URI line of 4473. That's
right, but it's a big deal in Minnesota because essentially, if you smoke pot, the ATF says you can't possess.
Correct,
a firearm.
even though it's legal in the state, right? Federal law says still illegal.
See, there's a side of me that kind of wants to see Hunter Biden get off on this, so that no average citizen who smokes a joint and then purchases a firearm also gets prosecuted for it.
He was smoking crack cocaine.
Yeah,
so
it's a little different.
I'm very libertarian, Neil. I'm very libertarian.
But yeah, I mean, also like I agree with you that it sets a precedent of then they can come after everybody. But I also think that just like the Democrats are trying to do to Trump, I don't necessarily want the right wing to become the group that says that we want to prosecute our political enemies. And Hunter Biden, his life's a disaster as is. Like nothing is going good for him. I guess maybe the artwork, he's maybe making some money, but he's lost all credibility. Nobody really respects him or anything. And I feel like that's maybe enough punishment on its own that he's a public embarrassment. To me, I don't know if I want to even see Hunter Biden go to jail, but I do want to see the process work itself out. And just the exposure. We, the people, deserve the truth. And having the truth is more important to me than him going to jail.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us like to see that asshole go to jail for many reasons. But
I would just like to see an equal application of the law. Because I guarantee you, if you were conservative and you did the same thing, you're going to be in big trouble.
Right,
yeah,
or you're just an average person.
Yeah.
I was watching this thing on Oliver Anthony, and people, there's so much fake news around him, including what Williams said about him in our thread. It's not fair. Williams not here to defend himself, but acting like he's not a Republican. He's not a Republican. He makes a comment about how he didn't like the Republican debate doing his song because he thought it was funny. He was referring to the people on stage.
Yeah.
And then they act like he's an anti-Republican. I go, no, it's those people. It's the Nikki Haley's and
they're the fake Republicans.
They're the problem. Also, why does it matter if he's like? It's a good song.
It's a good. Well, but it's not. It's beyond the song. It's the lyrics. Why are those lyrics resonating with us? Because a lot of us don't look at it as a Republican good, Democrat
and
bad,
we have
right?
to stop looking at everything through that lens. Look, what do you think the odds are that everyone in this country is ever going to agree? Or do you even want to live in that world where everyone agrees? Now, obviously, I have closely held conservative beliefs. I think they're best for life, liberty, and prosperity for a country and for civilization. But at the same time, I acknowledge that people are going to disagree. And, I have neighbors that I'm very close friends to, and we disagree on a lot politically, and we remain close neighbors. And for the first 200 some odd years, that seemed to be the way that America got along. We certainly didn't all get along, but we were able to apply the law equally, not try to lock up the other side's.
But hold on, I want to push back on what you're saying, Neil. I still think that's the case. You just said you get along with these neighbors.
Yes.
It's not them. We need liberals in our life.
But the
liberals with the bleeding heart, liberals that care about the disadvantaged. They have a role in society. To me, it's the leftist professionals. That's the issue.
And their willingness to weaponize our courts and our law enforcement apparatus and the entire state apparatus. That's the part that would worry any old school liberal from the 60s. We're like, no, you can't do that, because that was done to them in that era, right? I mean, our own law enforcement agencies spied on Martin Luther King because they didn't like what he had to say.
Right.
Well, that's not fair. The guy's advocating for rights that seem pretty clear to me in the Constitution. So this, again, it can come around, and my worry is that you end up with this pendulum that continues to get more and more out of whack, right? They impeached Trump where simply censoring him would have been appropriate, right? The political hand slap. Okay, now we come back and it's an impeachment thing. Is this what all of Congress is just going to do until the end of time? I mean, this looks so much like the end of Roman history that it's hard to not draw that parallel of continuing. The only way to stay out of jail at the end of the Roman Republic was to hold elected office because they had an immunity until someone crosses the Rubicon with their guns, and then it's
It's an interesting argument that is the savior. I'm pro impeachment of Biden, but this is the one that they're doing. It's the Hunter Biden shit. It's like, how about impeaching him for acting against the Constitution?
That's right.
Single-handedly changing gun laws, ATF's ruling on the SBRs, and then the First Amendment. I mean, first of all, the vaccine mandate, which was found unconstitutional by the courts, only with the private employers. But I think the most important we should all be unified on is impeaching his ass because he went to social media companies and said infringe on the free speech of individuals.
Yep.
And that's why impeachment is so important is you have to put these people in their place if they act against the Constitution and our rights.
And it also seemed like the emollients clause was used against Trump because he had someone stay at one of his hotels. Okay, if that's your bar, then accepting clear payments funneled through a third party into your bank account to give political favoritism? Come on.
Right.
Right? So that clearly that's corruption.
Yeah,
that's
but there's no evidence.
Public corruption.
There's no evidence.
Let's go to the stay in court and see if there is.
Yeah.
He just appealed the ruling today, Jake. What ruling are we talking about here,
I think Tucker's saying the social media stuff, that he's Biden is appealing the decision and he wants to be able to censor COVID information again and probably a lot of other things too because, it seems like the Democrats want to push another COVID run on us, but
and he's
luckily the people won't
it doesn't even
comply.
have to be COVID. It could be anything. They
Right.
want to do that.
Yep.
Well, let's bring those two things together. The Biden administration acting really crazy, and then as we were alluding to here with I lost my place here. The impeachment. Let's go back to the CNN story. We got distracted by this breaking news. We fell for CNN breaking news. I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Fox News
It's
alert.
almost as bad as falling for Fox breaking news.
Well, that's the thing is I used to watch Fox News, and it was always like every 5 minutes a Fox News alert.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? The tower's coming back down again?
Someone hit a home run.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. It's like, oh, gosh. White House sends letter to news execs. Okay, so I'm congested. I got this cold from the kids going back to school. A little congested. I'm like, reading this, I read the first paragraph. I'm like, this can't be true. This is from CNN. White House sends letter to news execs urging outlets to ramp up scrutiny of GOP's Biden impeachment inquiry based on lies. I read the first paragraph. The White House sent a letter to the top U.S. news executives on Wednesday, urging them to intensify their scrutiny of House Republicans after Speaker Kevin McCarthy launched an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden despite having found no evidence of a crime. What are you talking about? There's no evidence of a crime, Neil. That is their talking point. By the way, I wish we had time. We'd just do a montage of everyone going, no evidence of a crime. That's all what they're doing. So we talk about exposing the corrupt, lying media here on the show. This is it. But what's fascinating to me is, and I just couldn't believe I was reading the story last night, and I woke up in the morning, read it again. I'm like, yeah, that's literally what happened. CNN's admitting that the White House is giving them talking points.
So 40 years ago, you would win a Pulitzer for digging deep on how exactly this happened, right? I mean, Watergate, bad. This, just as bad. You can't be giving talking points to your media outlets. I mean, this is every authoritarian regime in the world, every banana republic does the exact same thing. These are the approved talking points. This is what you're going to talk about today. What happened to freedom of the press? And they're supposed to be asking hard questions. There are some good ones, but not in the mainstream media. To your point, you turn on the TV, right? Your wife turns on the TV. It's like it's propaganda. It's no longer people that are interested in the news. I had a discussion with a reporter from NPR who actually liked during the campaign. And I told him at the convention, I said, as long as you just keep assuming that everyone's an asshole, you will do a good job. And that's supposed to be their job. There's no friends. I don't like the left or the right. I hate you both equally. Perfect. Keep doing that because you're an advocate for the people and for the truth, and both sides are going to lie.
That's a good point, Neil, but we got to go to this breaking story. An alien was found in a Peru mine and brought in front of Congress in Mexico. There's actually somebody that was talking about why journalism is so different these days, and it's because back in the day they came from blue-collar families, and now they all are Ivy League. So they're going to same schools, same parties, same Skull and Bones and
Bones and Scones
and Bohemian Grove as the elites running the country, and so it's all the same pool of people.
Yep.
Hence why they're all geting along. There was this.
So are you giving DEI talking points? Are you advocating for diversity?
You know what I'm talking about. There was a. That's really funny, actually. There was a infamous story of I think it was an NPR reporter who was really good friends with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she was like I want to say it was NPR's reporter for the Supreme Court. Like that's not a conflict of interest.
Yeah. Well, inevitably they're going to have relationships with these people and get a little friendly, but as long as you don't like them, right? I mean, that's don't get too attached to them. You have politicians you like, but you still got to be able to call a spade when they do something that's bad, right? So you can like Trump when he tries to take away your Second Amendment rights, Jesse.
That's right.
I'll be there to fight
40
that
chess.
if it
40
happens.
chess.
I don't think it's happening, but yeah, we'll see on that. But and on this Biden thing, like you said, they keep saying no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. Well, if you go to the House Oversight Committee's website, they have a whole page dedicated to the Biden crime family and the investigation.
Let's pull that up. Can you put that in the
I could
notes?
put the link in there because they post this evidence for themselves. So for them to argue that there is no evidence out there,
nor do
the
they
House
need
Oversight
evidence.
Committee is posting it. So is there a more credible thing than the House Oversight Committee?
Well,
so I'll throw that down there
more
for
credible
you.
than that, but they don't need evidence.
Line
right now.
17 there, Dawson.
They don't need evidence. They need probable cause. That's what they need.
That's right.
Who's the big guy? 10% for the big guy. Who's the big guy?
This isn't convicting. This is charging.
Right. Well, it's not. Yeah, it's
the equivalent, right?
Yeah,
in criminal law.
Well, but not even that. It's the preliminary charging because it's actually the investigation.
Yes, they have not actually formally impeached.
Yes. Babylon B had the funniest meme. Who sent that to me?
What am I doing with
Dad?
this?
Yeah, so go ahead and scroll down there, Dawson.
Hold on one second. I have to bring up this hilarious thing. Oh, nope. Okay.
Yep, keep going down there,
I'll find
Dawson.
it. I'll find it in a second.
And right there, you'll see the key evidence that's listed out. One of them is an interactive timeline of the Biden's pay-for-play schemes, the Oversight Committee report revealing the Biden dealings with foreign countries, Biden bank records, memorandum showing the family created over 20 shell companies, key findings from the IRS whistleblowers, whistleblower transcript, press releases, follow-up letter seeking a transcribed interview in the wake of the IRS whistleblowers' explosive testimony, and the FBI Form 1023 alleging that then Vice President Joe Biden engaged in a bribery and extortion scheme and ultimately received $5 million from a Burisma executive. So, how's that for evidence? That sounds like some pretty damning evidence to me. And it's about time that the Republicans in Congress finally acted on this. This is why we were doing this at the state fair. We were telling people we had to impeach Joe Biden because he's committed all these unconstitutional actions. And unless it's on record, we'll see what happens in the Senate. There's a lot of rhinos in the Senate, but at least we can put these people on record. Same thing with the House. Put them on record. Let's see where the votes are at. Because if you're not willing to impeach Joe Biden, then you're a rhino.
And they're acting like there's not the votes there right now too, which is really fascinating.
Yeah, that's what CNN and the others keep saying, that McCarthy doesn't have the votes. That's why he's doing this on his own, which maybe it's true. I don't know. You have to ask each of these individual members, but it would be interesting. I think ultimately they should all fall in line. My man George Santos, he's all in favor of what's going on right now. He says McCarthy's doing a great job, but. And I'm semi-impressed with McCarthy. He's taking things further than I expected him to. But also, I love what Matt Gaetz is doing and holding him accountable, saying that if you don't, fulfill the promises you made to us when you ran for speaker, then Matt Gaetz is going to stand up and try to get him removed. So, there's always a lot of stuff going on within D.C., but so far I'm semi-impressed with McCarthy, and I love what Matt Gaetz is doing because we need the whole truth, and we need everything exposed.
So I think that it's McCarthy's playing this kind of perfect now for where he is, because I think he's going to essentially have his cake and eat it too, because he knows that there's not going to be an impeachment vote because I don't think he has the votes. He's going to give talking points that the conservatives in like the Freedom Caucus, for example, can take back and say, hey, we investigated. They'll use the word impeachment even though it was an impeachment investigation, even though that's a step before even recommending impeachment.
Yeah.
I know that there aren't the votes. It was too tight, and there's too many people that got in that were in districts that voted Biden, but were frustrated enough that they sent a Republican to the House, so first-term
Right.
people that are vulnerable. But nonetheless, even if by some miracle you got the impeachment to come out of the House, it's going to die in the Senate, right?
Oh, of course, right.
So all of this, I think, for people looking at it from the outside, don't get too excited. This is the political theater. This is the strongly worded letter from the Republican so-and-so about something they didn't like, right? It's smoke and mirrors. It means absolutely nothing. And don't change who you vote for or think someone did a great job just because they presented you with the dog and pony show. This is the game in Washington.
Yeah, but behind it is a
Right.
very important tool is impeachment. So I don't want to undermine what's going on here. And I'm very pro-impeachment. We just did a booth about it because when a person acts out of line, and this actually comes before I think he's president, so I'm not sure what they're putting in front. Impeachment's the correct measure, but then again, there's nothing else you can do against a sitting president. But it's like when they act out of line, you have to impeach them. And there's a high bar, and that's what you're referring to, is convicting in the Senate,
Right.
2/3, meaning like it's very obviously a crime. It's very obviously a crime that was committed when he infringed on the First Amendment rights. The judge in that case, Missouri, whatever, the Missouri versus Biden administration, said this is the greatest violation of the First Amendment in the history of this country.
Right. An amendment a document he swore an oath to uphold. It's a good segue into someone else that's not upholding their oath, right?
Well, that was thank you for that transition. That was beautiful. New Mexico. This is an interesting story. So we obviously told you about this, and there was we didn't break the story. Obviously, I think it happened Friday afternoon. So what we did is we reported on Tuesday about the New Mexico governor is feeling backlash from citizens, people openly carrying, I think near Albuquerque, maybe in Albuquerque, openly carrying and concealing, but in defiance of the governor's order. Now, this is the breaking story. I think this came as of late yesterday. A federal judge blocks New Mexico Governor Grisham's gun ban. Before that even was a story, the AG in New Mexico said that
we won't even show up.
Yeah. I don't know if it's
Now,
a he or she, but
fascinatingly, they passed a civil rights law, which is probably worth discussing as a tangent, because now it's one of the laws that I think maybe the Democrats will think twice about passing here, right? So they got rid of qualified immunity, and they said you can actually sue individual office holders or police officers, whomever, for civil rights violations. So she gets to deal with that.
oh my God, I've
Yeah.
been filing today.
Yeah, well, so it's a question, right? Yeah, it's a standing question. If you were charged and fined, you would absolutely for sure have standing to go after her.
Yeah.
Right.
But just doing this, right?
Yeah, good question. Is there standing?
Yeah,
on that?
because all the AGs of that county, of Bernalillo County, said we're not going to enforce it. The state AG has said no, not with a 10-foot pole, because again, then he would be liable.
But could you
for
make
it.
an argument that something happened to you where if you had a gun, it was a deterrent, and because you were following the orders, the dictates of the governor, you didn't carry a firearm that day?
So I think, yes, and you were mugged or something like that. I think
Yeah.
and that might be like one thing too far in the chain for the courts, but I think, yes, you probably could gain it that way, but there has to be an injury. That's the whole thing. And so, like, for example, when Biden administration infringed on Alex Bearson's free speech rights, now he had a valid reason to sue. And that case, again, didn't get thrown out. Now they're in discovery, and so
I already forgot about that.
that's a
right.
great case. That's a huge
Damn
test
discovery
case
takes
for this.
forever.
Oh my gosh!
'Cause I wanted to find out
yeah,
about that.
Yeah,
so.
it'll take forever to fight this out. So, the good news is that some of these folks are there, but then people have been agitating to say, well, why didn't one of the sheriffs grow a pair and just arrest her? I mean, you are violating your oath.
Dude,
It's
I'm
interesting.
dead serious. When we first decided, and when I say first decided, this is like March 20th of 2020, that we were going to take on Governor Walz with his emergency powers. We knew from the get-go it was wrong, because March 13th, I think, is when he declared emergency powers. No one knew what they were going to do, right? And then he does the lockdown order. We go, that's wrong. I think it was March 20th when he said, you can't leave your home. We go, that's wrong. We're taking this on. And we had people saying, go arrest him. And I was thinking, well, how do you arrest him? Like, if I walk in, we're going to have... So those people recommend a sheriff doing it.
Right, because it's a question about whether you're forcing the sheriff to violate
Right.
their oath by allowing that dictatorial thing to continue.
Yes.
Yeah.
But isn't it interesting? We all here in February 2020 never would have thought they were going to decree a health emergency, and all of a sudden they could just tell us whatever the hell we're going to do. And according to Michael Knowles, Bridget's not here to defend him. Bridget thinks that I might be a little off on this story. We talked about it on Tuesday. But that they have these kind of powers to suspend our rights. They don't.
They don't have the powers
because
to suspend
those
the
rights don't come from them. They come from God. You can't suspend my God-given rights.
Fascinatingly, to me, two of the most fascinating tweets in this, you probably saw them. David Hogg and Ted Lieu, who's a super leftist from California, are like, you can't suspend the Constitution. Oh, well, it would seem like in various other states the Constitution was suspended during COVID.
I know. Did they miss that?
I know, and I've never seen Ted Lieu ever, say
and
that
and
that's
it's hilarious
too far
their
liberal.
tweets are like a copy-paste of one another.
Right.
It's very strange. But nonetheless, they're the tweets of record. And they both said, like, you can't, like, I think what David Hogg said is like, I'm pro-gun safety, this or that, but you can't suspend the Constitution. And
it's not a health emergency. Yeah.
Right. Well, even if there was even if there was any kind of emergency, right? I mean,
Mark Anderson says Grisham's action is the greatest example why emergency powers is unconstitutional. Now, we had a solution for that in Minnesota in the Never Again bill. Basically, you can't just unilaterally declare emergency powers. That's what happened in this state. Unilateral declaration of emergency powers. In this case, now, I personally believe politicians answer the politics in the room, right? And not enough people are scared enough to fall suit. So what's the difference between this and COVID? Too many people were scared in COVID, and so they didn't challenge. They gave up their rights because it was scary. There's not enough scare. That's also why I don't think they're doing it with climate change, because it's not scary enough to people to give up their rights. Don't for a second think these politicians don't want to use that. So on the show on Tuesday, this was hilarious. We could not figure out where the hell the order was to ban guns. We're like, they can't make it up. Every news agency was reporting this. The governor stood by her statement, but we couldn't find it. And here's why. We went and looked at the executive orders by the governor. Nowhere to be found. She declared a public health emergency. Dawson pulled this up. This is where the gun ban came from. It's actually under the Department of Health. Cabinet Secretary Patrick Allen. Public health emergency order imposing temporary firearm restrictions, drug monitoring, and other public safety measures. Go ahead and scroll down there, Dawson. Let's read the therefore, which is the substance of it. Scroll up a little bit. I think it's right above that here.
No,
there you go. Therefore, I, Patrick Allen, Secretary of New Mexico Department of Health, in accordance with authority vested in me by the Constitution and laws of the state of New Mexico, and as directed by the governor pursuant blah, 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 do hereby declare that gun violence and drug use constitute conditions of public health importance. And order and direct as follow. No person other than law enforcement officer or licensed security officer shall possess a firearm. Well, I'm just going to stop it right there. Possess a firearm. They unilaterally decided to do this. I must interrupt here. We got a Rumble rant from T-Wall for Life, who put insert rant here. So she says my brain couldn't come up with a good rant. All right, I just read you the lineage here. You're going to get the rant from Neil, because Neil's a big gun guy, okay? Big Pro 2A guy. And unfortunately, Neil and I lost all our firearms in that boating accident when we were
it's a tragedy.
Yeah, so it was really
with all my gold
sad.
and
I know, so
cash.
sad. 300 blackout and all that stuff that we lost that day. So a governor declares an emergency of public health, which then gives powers to the Secretary of Health, who then declares, literally, I order and direct, no one shall possess a firearm either openly or concealed within cities or counties averaging 1,000 or more violent crimes per 100,000. Boy, the way do you try to follow the order by saying, wait, what's our violent crime statistics here? Ridiculous. Give the rant. T-Wall just paid you $10 to give your rant.
It is absolutely wild. So I think everyone's focusing on the governor, but the authority she uses to do this are public health laws. These public health laws were used and abused to constrain First Amendment rights, landlord rights, right? Remember when landlords were forced to keep people in their housing?
Yeah.
That was under this kind of mechanism. And so while everyone wants to get mad at executives for being crazy and this and that, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, these public health laws and the latitude that they are given by the courts to impose massive, far-reaching, well beyond what you might say, like, look, you've got monkeypox, we're going to give you a court order. You need to stay at home until you're cured. Okay, fine. People can come up with reasonable reasons why you might want to have those if there's an outbreak of some kind of disease. But to extend it to the First Amendment, Second Amendment, property rights, all these things that have absolutely nothing to do, and to declare them public health emergencies. Can you imagine at the federal level if some state decided it wanted to defend the unborn and passed a law, and now they say there's a federal public health emergency and we're going to suspend that because this is a quote-unquote right? So that is, I think, again, the thing that underneath all of this, the mechanism that needs to be addressed is these out-of-control public health laws that have very wide-reaching latitude that don't require input from the
legislature. Right. It's unilateral.
It's unilateral dictatorial powers vested in the Anthony Fauci's of the world.
Right. And by the way, the rhinos were against it. What were you going to say, Jesse?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking with the Never Again bill, just the functionality of it, that it would require 2/3 of the legislature, both the House and the Senate, to approve of it, along with the governor. I'm even thinking maybe the people should have a vote on it too. You know, maybe it should have to pass 2/3 of the people also approving of something like this, because ultimately, if we're the ones who have to be impacted by these laws and we're the ones that have to follow through on whatever dictates they want, I would think maybe, you know, for a public health emergency, for it to be declared, the people should have to agree to it too.
Well, but
what do you think about
we're
that?
a representative democracy.
Yeah,
I mean, the people's representative. I mean, it would become unwieldy. Like, you can't get a referendum done. If the 90% of the legislature votes on something, it probably needed to move, right? It probably was a legitimate risk that required careful things. So I think that might be the pushback, is that you do sometimes need to move a little bit more quickly. But, you know, again, what was so bizarre to me going to all those debates with the various and sundry rhinos on the stage with me running for governor was that they couldn't understand why we would need something like this. And they couldn't understand why you can tear apart. So a lot of people say, hey, look, we need to move money from one pile to another during an emergency. This isn't what we're here arguing about. Tear that out. You can do that without asking people for permission if you didn't move bucket.
Well,
money
really,
from federal
you can't,
bucket to state bucket,
because the Congress is the one that appropriates. So even that is questionable. But it's not the thing that
but
got
if
us
there are federal
motivated.
funds that, like for example, the executive could move to state buckets,
I agree
go
with
ahead
you
and do
on
that,
that.
right? Like
Yep.
we don't care. Some community gets devastated by a flood, declare an emergency to move the money. That's really what it is I need to move the money. But anytime you're talking about anything beyond just that, no. Like the legislature needs to, and the legislature can hustle. You don't think you can get everyone together for a Zoom call? If North Korea
that was
drops
argument
a nuke
against
on
it,
something?
right?
Yeah. They're like, no, we couldn't. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you could.
Well, and that was that was a straw man. I'm gonna get to base Minnesota's Rumble Rant, but it was like the argument they were making is, what about a nuclear blast? I'm like, the last thing we're going to care about is our intact government when we've been hit by a nuclear bomb. Shut the hell up.
Right.
First, Brad Ganser, this is the mechanism they're using against Jordan Peterson to mute him, which is really a good point.
That's right.
Base Minnesota, good job today. As always, fellas, this version of the Oliver Anthony song is way better. I feel obligated by what I said earlier that despite this great conversation we're having, we have to go to his version.
Let's hope it's not that Democrat senator's tape.
What's that?
You guys have been following that? The person running in Virginia. The
I do know. I do know about that.
Oh, she's on the
porn star.
Yeah. The one.
Well, she's an amateur porn star.
She's having sex in public for money, and then cries about people stealing her sex tape.
Yeah.
And you know, it's funny. The Democrats are like doubling down and supporting her. It's kind of hilarious to watch, and it's a swing district too. So you know, that's one of those that. That's going to be real interesting to follow.
I know. So it's, whenever I see a random link, you're like, you never know.
Yeah.
Chatterbait. What do you mean?
That's the
name of the website.
She was getting money.
Oh gosh.
Oh, gotcha. Tony's the one that sent it to me. I go, Democrats always trying to bring down the working woman.
Yeah.
Well, she's a Republican, isn't she? Or
no, she's a Democrat.
Oh, did I have this wrong? So the Republicans are going.
Well, no one knows, right? They're like, oh, it's an oppo dump, and they asked the Republican candidate. He's like, I'm focused on my election. Like, he had the right answer. He's like, I'm not even going to touch this.
So the Democrats were going against her then?
No,
I didn't read the story.
Yeah, no, she had a primary opponent before, but what's funny is that if you go on her website, she's got like a sexy nurse picture of herself. Like, you know, you can see what she's trying to do.
Well, and Jesse just came alive on this show. It's hilarious. I'm glad Tony sent this to me like 30 minutes before show. I wouldn't even know what you guys were talking about.
Yeah, no, it's pretty interesting.
I said politics as a new deep throat. Let's go hear this Oliver Anthony. I don't know what this is. Let's hear it.
Hold on, I have to type in the whole URL.
Oh, it is it. You can't click on it.
Oh, it's.
Hopefully that works. you know, this is really dangerous. For $10, someone could steer us off and send us to any website.
Mm-hmm.
I feel base Minnesota is not going to lead us astray.
Yeah.
Why would you, base Minnesota? Why would you send me to Odyssey? That's
What is Odyssey? Is that look? I don't know any websites apparently. Odyssey? What is that?
It's kind of like a video platform
Rumble
alternative.
YouTube
Yeah, it's
thing.
kind of like a YouTube Rumble alternative.
I think I.
There we
Oh
go.
my God, this is good.
Oh, this is hilarious.
It's already infected, it smells like shit and decay. Really good chance I'm gonna take my life one day. At least I'll get more attention than all those normie gays. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to when a creature like me believes that it's true that he could just wake up and not be a dude. But he is. Oh, he is living as a new girl with a Y chromosome. You ask which men can be women, I'll tell you which can. The ones that trade their pole for a hole, and that hole really stinks, and it's covered in goo, and it smells like a combo of roadkill and poop. If I don't dilate it, it will heal shut and fill in. Tell me which man can be women.
Oh, that's so. Pause it real quick. The level of great troll on this. First of all, you can tell this person's from like beach country, right? Not the hills of Virginia. So he put a ladder up there as if it's the tree stand.
Yeah.
she's got a great voice.
He?
Why are you?
All right, you guys can go watch this. I don't want to go any further. That is hilarious.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I hadn't seen that
You haven't
before.
seen that one?
Oh, man. Oh, I feel like I'm not on the internet. You guys, everyone's
I
making
get
me
sent,
feel like I'm not
I'm
on
not
the
on
internet.
social media or any of that, but I get sent very fun, curated, interesting items. But
Yeah,
Very
that one has not been sent to me for sure. I'm
That's
glad
probably
the
the best.
porn star one was sent to me about 30 minutes before.
Mm-hmm.
So she's running as a Democrat in a primary, and so Democrats.
Well, no,
she
no,
made it
she
past the
won the
primary.
primary.
Yep.
Yeah, she won the
So
primary.
for like it's not a U.S.
it's-
Congress.
no,
State
it's
House.
State House or State Senate. I
Yeah,
can't
State
remember.
Let's pull up
House,
the
yes.
article. I think
Yeah.
it was on. Hold on one second here. I think it was on New York Post is what I got it on.
yeah.
And the Times covered, right? So the New York Times covers this, and they said, and it's hilarious to read their headline. They make it seem like it's a stolen sex video.
Yeah.
and it would be subject to the laws around that sextortion stuff. And you're like, oh man, that sounds
They
really
act
terrible.
like she didn't put it out
F-18
for the
doesn't.
public.
And then
she
it's
put
like,
it out
no,
there
no.
for that purpose.
This is
you
a
know?
public video used to raise money, and
Yeah.
apparently she said on one of the videos,
Mm-hmm.
raising money for something special, and then hid all of them, like right before
Mm-hmm.
she decided to run.
Yeah, right.
It's like that conversation I had with my campaign manager. Is there anything about your history that you'd like us to know? And, no.
Yeah.
Is there? Okay. Where were you on January 6th?
Uh-huh.
Base Minnesota, Jake, you're missing out. Odyssey and BitChute is where the graves at. I at least knew what BitChute was.
Mm-hmm.
57,000 followers apparently. I'm guessing. Pull up the F-18 Dawson New York Post
I'm
article.
doing my best to get all these.
Yeah, or if
ads
you
out
just
of the way.
Google her name, Susanna Gibson, there's
Well,
a
that might
million
be
articles
dangerous.
on it.
All right, so this is where you wonder, right? Maybe she just drops out, opens her OnlyFans page, and makes millions of dollars. Right?
Yeah.
Like just lean into it and be like,
Oh, she
yeah,
should, yeah.
I thought that I had a good idea, but now I have
Uh-huh.
a great idea.
Yeah, and I thought she was going to do like the sex work is real work type of argument. You know, I thought that was the
No,
jiu-jitsu direction she was
didn't-
going.
Nah, that's right. That's
But
the
she's doing-
logical one,
yeah,
right? Because
right.
the other argument doesn't really work. Like,
Yeah, she's calling it revenge
no one
porn.
hacked your computer. Like
Yeah.
you were
Wait,
there.
she's calling it revenge porn?
Yeah, that's it.
Basically,
How's
yeah.
she calling it revenge
Well,
porn?
they're like,
She
we
put it
hired
out
a
there.
lawyer to prosecute this as a revenge porn case.
Yeah.
You're like, bro, this is a website where you were public and you
Yeah.
collect money from people. and
Right,
you
it-
have
it's not like it was a
Blast
private
supporters
video
for
leaked.
Gutter
Yeah.
politics
Yeah.
after sex video surfaces, which is hilarious. She's saying they're in the gutter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has a son.
Wait, what? This is the problem with these websites. I see this story and then I look up in the top right. I'm a former FBI agent. Here's the safest room to back book in any hotel. Like,
Yeah.
Now I want to watch. See, that's the problem. Democratic Virginia House of Delegates can't scroll up a little bit. No, the other way. Sorry.
Down.
Scroll down.
Scroll down. Yeah. Yeah, that would be the logical other way. Jeez, Dawson. House of Delegates candidate Susanna Gibson blasts her opponents for engaging in the worst gutter politics after video surfaced of her and her husband performing sex acts online for cash. So it's even.
Yeah. An illegal invasion of my privacy designed to humiliate me.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just hilarious. You put it out there yourself.
You cashed the checks, lady.
Yeah. I think that's fair game.
I'm with you, Neil. I think she should lean into this. That's what I would. If
I
I was her campaign manager, I'd say lean into this. You're the sex
Says the guy wearing the
candidate.
George Santos shirt.
Yeah,
dude, just do it and raise money for it, right? I mean,
yeah, that's what I think.
The nurse practitioner has since rallied against her political opponents, accusing them of engaging in dirty politics. I think it's fair game, but does it, listen.
Well, there's any number of
Would I
candidates,
vote
but
for her?
What's unimpeachable is the fact that this is not revenge porn. This is not stolen. This is literally a public thing, right? And after that, there's a variety of tastes you could have on it.
What's all
that,
victim mentality, right? She's playing the Democrat role really well.
Right.
Yeah, and she's endorsed by Governor Blackface Ralph Northam. If you go on her website, she's got all these endorsements listed out. Yeah, it's like, and I was thinking, man, this endorsement page might change, because there might be some Democrats that just say, I'm withdrawing my support. I don't want to be attached to this anymore. But most of the Democrats are standing their ground, and it's hilarious. I can't wait to see what ends up happening with that race.
This is the comment. The theory is she leaked it herself, which would make sense if that 57,000 followers was what the count is now. And the early edit of a story I saw was 5,000.
Yeah.
So maybe it's
is it still active so she could still get paid?
Well, I read that she hid the videos, right? Like you archive them and make them go away.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but
right, it's other people that are posting it though. It's not it's not on her page or anything like that. Other people are taking the video and posting it
somewhere else. But she had a page where the videos were.
Yeah. It might be a brilliant move. I'm kind of in Tucker's camp there. I think it's probably what she did, either for personal gain or to get more
but then
notoriety.
The messaging's weird. Then it's like, sex work is real work, and I have a loving relationship with my husband, and this is what we do for kink, and we support freedom for people. Like, that would be the messaging point, right? The bizarre, the shame, side, the shaming part of it.
Like I'm gonna tell you the bare naked truth.
Right. Come to my website and donate to my campaign. You can get premium access. That would be the way to lean into this thing. And then, record $45 million raised for a campaign.
Yeah, she does better than Trump and the money bomb.
I know. This is what it looks like at the end of civilization.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, but you say that there was a porn star that was running California governor. I think it was in the recall election. There was a porn star that ran. No, was it Stormy Daniels that ran in Louisiana? I think Stormy Daniels literally ran.
Yeah,
once.
there was something about that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so this is
there's a drag queen porn star I think in California too. So
I think the only
that's name is Maybe a Girl. That's the name of the tranny, and I think the tranny ran against Adam Schiff before. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff happening in politics.
America totally wins.
Yeah, right. Race. And imagine those are your two choices: Adam Schiff or maybe a girl.
She just doesn't come from the.
So is Adam Schiff with makeup and Adam Schiff without?
Yeah, right. Pretty much.
She's just not an established porn star. She's from the grassroots porn industry. How funny is that? Was OnlyFans even? Did it exist before 2020? Now, yeah. It's hilarious. I just found out there's a woman named Martha. Shoot, it's a Hispanic name. It's Martha something, who's on OnlyFans for politics. Because I don't think
keeps all her clothes on and just. That's hilarious. I haven't known.
It's a good idea. Bueno, Martha.
I know. It's make a Substack. Because I've heard about that too.
No, it's a great idea.
And then people pay $5, and it's just like you sitting there in a hoodie.
It doesn't.
Your John Fetterman hoodie.
No, you're right. It doesn't have to. Yeah, you don't.
Fetterman should have an OnlyFans. Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah.
OnlyFans wasn't originally a porn site. It was more for like a weird kind of Patreon, I guess, until Patreon took that up really well. And then
that's
OnlyFans
what I was thinking. What's the difference? It's just whatever content you want to put out. For whatever reason, it gravitated towards people bored in. I think that's what it is people bored in COVID.
There was a
household name before then.
There was a month a while ago where OnlyFans was like, we're going to crack down on this. It's not an NSFW platform anymore. But it had enough people leaving that it was like, okay.
That's like their entire model.
Yeah, right.
That's such a bad management idea.
Well, since we're in the after hours here, Base Minnesota did do a $10 Rumble rant. Gets to bring up the next article because this wasn't on the show agenda, but it's a great one. Lauren Boebert. I think she was drunk. I'm going to split this way. We can watch the video, but she gets kicked out of a showing of Beetlejuice.
Oh.
It's in theaters. Type in Lauren Boebert. You see that, Dawson? And let's just go ahead.
Yeah, I'd seen something about it. I haven't watched
I
a
posted
video
it in
or
the
anything.
thread.
Oh my gosh, that scared me. She's in a nude-colored dress, so now we're all good.
Actually, I don't think that would be scary though. She's pretty good looking.
No,
She's in a targeted district for DCCC. She better watch out.
Yeah.
It's a weird. That's a huge district. You ever look at a map of Colorado 3?
Yeah.
It's like half the state.
Yeah.
Like 30% of
Well,
the
it's
state.
his mountains though.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
thing.
the whole
Yeah.
southern part, and then wraps around and goes all the way up to the
Right.
northern
Gosh,
border
you have to
on
watch-
the west side.
You have to watch 2 ads to get to watch a video on here.
Speaking of porn, Pornhub employee caught on camera admitting that Pornhub pays rapist.
That's
Child
not surprising.
abusers or
I don't
I
think
mean,
we can
it's-
afford to keep doing all these last-minute news stories, but that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's where, like, I think we have this conversation. Okay, so this is Boebert and I
Just a
think her new
mystery
love
guy.
interest, because I think she's getting divorced or divorced. Oh, jeez, lost that. So there she is leaving.
Is there audio to this?
No,
Okay.
it's just security cameras. She's being escorted.
How not sober do you have to be to get kicked out of a Beetlejuice
It's
showing?
fascinating.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh, I don't.
Yeah, I figured it was like the crowd was against her or something. And
No, when you look, is there just instead of that, like
I'll
just
try YouTube or something.
yeah, just all the footage? What's the Aunt B doing on there?
Who knows? Second. I'll find it.
Oh, those are just simpler times when the Andy Griffith Show was the good stuff on
I know,
TV.
I
I
know.
love that show too, by the way, but it's so wholesome nowadays. You're just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm not holier than thou. Okay, I just rewatched.
But it has taken it's taken a giant step down, even compared to like the 90s, the aughts,
yeah,
even the teens. I mean,
yeah. Family Matters. That's
Yeah.
what was on her
Yeah.
shows. You know.
Okay, I
Little
think I
Family
got
Matters.
it.
You got it?
I think so.
Interesting that this lady's defending herself for selling herself for contributions while Trump is being prosecuted for keeping a relationship with Torney Silent. Okay, so there we go. There's the video of them being asked to leave. Apparently,
That is a packed
people had to keep telling them that they were like boisterous. My thinking here is she had a couple cocktails.
mm-hmm.
I mean, it looked like it was a fun night out there. Look how she's dressed. Gorgeous looking dress, right?
Why was everybody in that theater?
See, look at
wearing
that.
white?
See,
Yeah,
Selfie.
whenever you're explaining yourself and being like, "Do you know who I am?"
yeah,
I'm gonna
that's just.
call the so and so.
I pretty much hate anyone that says that.
Yes, that's
You know
pretty
who
much
I
your
am.
jerk.
That's what I
That's
do.
interesting.
Oh well, they show many different angles of them leaving it, and you could see her like constantly running into him, laughing. So she leans into it, and she has a response, and it was just like she was having a good time that night. I'm just like, oh my god, she was freaking drunk.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably. And yeah, her and Marjorie Taylor Greene do not get along, so I bet Marjorie Taylor Greene is loving this news. Yeah, they do have a little bit of a catfight going, and because they're both kind of I don't want to say fringe, but that's how they get classified in
Right.
the GOP. But they're both MAGA, old America first.
Yeah.
So it is funny to see those two always going after each other. But yeah, if I got to pick, I'm Team Marjorie Taylor Greene of the two.
Well, she seems like she's more serious nominally, but like, look, all these people in DC are
She's on
various
Infowars
stages of
quite a bit,
clowns.
so
various
yeah.
types of clowns. So
Yeah, the only guy. I
if
could
that's
try-
anything that this does, is just take the shine away from all these people, right? I mean, I was just in DC, and you see them in person. You're like, these are like the most unimpressive. You hear them talk, and you're like, why don't we send like real people to
Yeah.
DC? The problem, well, there's various and sundry problems, but like, even if
Yeah,
you're
why don't you
real,
run?
At some point, I will, Jake.
But you're not gonna run now.
Stay tuned.
Well, but this is a good point.
Yeah.
You just said
Yeah.
send real people to DC.
Send real people to DC, and I
and
think
you
that
won't run.
I won't run because I want to spend time with my kids.
But so that's my problem is like it's gonna gravitate towards those
Yeah.
phony people because guys like you and guys like me, Jesse's not normal, but we'll pretend he's normal here. Just kidding, Jesse. We don't have an interest in running.
Right. Or if you do, you have other stuff. You run successful businesses.
Right.
You're a teacher. You're a farmer. You have a real job, which is what it was supposed to be. Was you go serve for some period of time, then you go back to doing your real job. And running, Tommy, that's a lot of it's brutal, but the thing that's hardest to take is time away from kids. So you got to wait till they're older. That's part of the reason why you have people that tend to be in their 50s, 60s, which I think is fine, but I don't really like the 80s.
But no, you're making a great point. The goal of the founders were you'd go serve temporarily, and then the Susan Gibsons would go back and do their regular job.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Let's go last story. Speaking of guys that don't have regular jobs these days because all they care about is politics, and I hate to break this to all you guys because this is going to be really sad, but the great Willard Romney not going to run again. I am sorry. Willard, otherwise a.k.a. Mittens Romney, is done.
Yeah.
And no, I don't know why I didn't put the article in here.
Yep.
But as he's heading out of office, he can't help but talk about how great he was and how there's no courage inside the Republican ranks.
Yeah.
Let me see.
That's the thing. He's one of those people, he might even believe some of the BS that he's selling. You know, when he's saying, I brought this money back to our state. I got this highway, whatever. You know, it's like, did you fight for our country or did you, sit there and play money games? And, he was playing money games. And, I think I'm so happy to see Mitt Romney out of there. It's about time. The guy should have never been elected in the first place. We're going to see an interesting primary now out of Utah.
Very interesting primary. Because,
right.
So Mike Lee's our other senator, good voting record, solid senator, solid kind of libertarian-leaning conservative.
Yeah.
We'll see if I think that's the kind of person Utah should send forward again. I know there's some guy running now that seems to be pretty well funded.
Trent Staggs.
Yep.
And, that's what I'm seeing, too. I've looked into him a little bit. He was good on COVID when he was the mayor of some town there. He was refusing the vaccine mandates, the mask mandates, and so far, he seems pretty good. And if he was willing to challenge Mitt Romney in a primary, that's a good sign for this guy. And I've seen John Curtis, one of the congressmen out of Utah, he's now maybe going to throw his hat in the ring. And people should go back and watch Project Veritas video on John Curtis because he gets exposed as a rhino that he tells his constituents one thing and then he really believes something else. And maybe he'll vote the right way, but it's not at being genuine. He's just another sellout rhino. Utah has a couple of people that they could, see in there. Jason Chaffetz, he might also get in. So it's going to be an interesting primary. I'm hoping that someone much better than Mitt Romney takes his place, though.
Yeah, and their electorate has changed a lot, too. So a lot of West Coast transplants, California transplants.
Yeah.
And then, even LDS members kind of split into the more corporate side that look a lot like Romney and then much more libertarian side. So it'll be an interesting state. I'm sure there'll be a Republican that comes out of it. But the question is what quality and what kind.
Billy 22 has a question or something directed towards you, I'm sure, Jesse. Marjorie Taylor Greene supported McCarthy during the vote for Speaker. She was all up in Matt Gaetz' face for holding out for concessions. Lauren was sitting and holding firm right by Matt.
Well, that's interesting. I don't know about Marjorie Taylor Greene getting up in Matt Gaetz' face.
No, we did
anything.
this like live on air. You just not remembering this.
I'm not remembering that because I remember her sitting next to Matt Gaetz and joking with him and laughing as
she got frustrated
Matt Gaetz.
Last night.
Yeah, maybe that last night.
And remember, she was like the first to give McCarthy a big old hug when he finally got in.
Yeah.
There's cracks.
That's the thing. There's different styles and ways of going at it. I'm not saying that Marjorie Taylor Greene's perfect. I'm just saying of the two between her and Boebert, I'm more with Marjorie Taylor Greene on it because Boebert came after her with the you said Jewish space lasers and it's like, well, yeah, that's true. So I like anyone that's willing to say the truth about Israel. But I mean I agree.
Whoa.
I agree with.
Whoa. What?
I mean, especially we look at the Maui fires. It's like, oh yeah, that looks natural. Not to me. And anybody can look into Israel for themselves. I'm not gonna not gonna convince anybody of anything.
I definitely didn't look into it because it's like our mutual friend that owns a pub. I just don't. I can't look into all these crazy.
No,
claims,
you can go down the.
What's the conspiracy behind it being Israel behind the lasers?
Oh, I'm not necessarily blaming them. I'm just saying that they also have the capacity.
You said that,
no. I'm saying it's probably more likely China. But I was just using the space lasers as an example because some people think it had to do with the Maui fires. We never will know until there's a true investigation, and obviously all the Democrats are covering it up over there. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't have all the answers. I'm just asking questions, and I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is asking those questions too.
Well, interesting to see a little bit of a split in the Freedom Caucus about this debt ceiling vote
coming
up. They're kind of Because McCarthy, again, astutely has chopped it into these kind of minibus bills of like, let's put like 3 things that no one really is going to complain about together. Let's get that passed. And then let's do this. And then let's leave the last couple things for the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think the Freedom Caucus is going to hang together and hold out. And, you know, even if Gates calls a vote to vacate the chair, he doesn't have the votes to do it, right? So,
Right.
I have a rant on that for a second. I want to bring in a new voice here because a lot of times we have the same people commenting, which I love, by the way. I'm not shit on you. Keep commenting. But when there's a new comment, I bring it up. AmFaith92 says, OnlyFans definitely existed before 2020. Such a sore point for me. My ex cheated with a girl who he met through her account, cheated on my birthday 4 years ago, and I just had a nightmare about it. So... Well, I guess 2020 was only 3 years ago. I don't think I've heard of it before then. It all of a sudden became part of pop culture about 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's because it wasn't a porn site before then. It was.
Well, I mean, I think she's kind of saying it was, or maybe
you're saying,
not.
Dawson, it wasn't predominantly known for that, right? Like that may have been a domain of it.
Which I'm pretty sure started specifically during like early COVID is when it was like.
You guys know Twitter is like Wild West of porn, right?
It's unbelievable what's allowed on a variety of these platforms, and then what's taken down in comparison to what's allowed. I mean, just absolute filth, and you know, there's a lot of arguments about free speech, et cetera, but like the fact is that things that many people would find objectionable are allowed to stay up, and things that one person finds objectionable are taken down.
Well, I just think, you know, Twitter in my book is used for politics. It's like, you know, well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, that's how I use it. Some people use it for sports or news and stuff like that. But it's just like when you start bringing porn in, you're kind of diminishing the product in the end. So, but it seems like OnlyFans leaned into it.
Yep.
Okay, I don't want to talk about that, Tucker. I want to rant about this for a second. This is a great topic. The minibuses, we call it an omnibus, but really what they call it is a continuing resolution. So your congressman's getting paid. They haven't done their work. Their job is to appropriate money. That's their job. And they're not doing the job. They literally come down to the wire every single time, and they pass what's called a continuing resolution, which just means the same spending levels. They can actually fluctuate a little bit, but essentially it's the same budget, just delayed down the road. And that's where we're going because the fiscal year ends in 15 days, so 16 days. So that's what they're going to and to me it's just like I'm so sick of it, but this is probably why guys like you and I don't run for Congress, because I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't vote for this bullshit. It's the same bullshit over and over again. It's screwing our country over.
You know, there might be more opposition to it this time than usual. You know, obviously Matt Gaetz and, you know, some of these others are not going to lay down and take it. You know, they're going to stand up and fight. And but obviously you're right that, you know, some of these good people have been co-opted by McCarthy. And, you know, they're afraid to speak out against him. They're afraid to go against the Republican caucus and what they want to do. And that's all a problem. So it's a really interesting situation with what's going on because, like I said, I think McCarthy is probably the best speaker I've seen in my lifetime. Not that that's saying much, you know, because he's just in comparison to a bunch of other losers. But I think, you know, he's pushing things in a better direction than they were before, but it's still delaying the issues that are still, you know, like you're saying with the spending. It's just kicking the can down the road, and maybe, you know, instead of kicking it down by 10 years, we're doing it by 5 this time. Well, that's still not good enough. We have to, you know, cut spending levels to an extreme degree.
Yeah, and think about it. If you're keeping it at current levels, which is deficit spending, and interest rates go up.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally – do you want to complain about gas prices and food prices, all that stuff? Well, where do you think that comes from? We go to the printing press. That's how we solve these problems. We go to the printing press. So we're not going to solve the damn problems. So I do appreciate the Matt Gaetz of the world that are trying to solve the problem, but I just don't see the political will anymore.
There won't be on both sides of the aisle.
Right, both sides.
The Wall Street Journal ran a long form piece about how, you know, tax cuts are here and they're never going to go away. And the idea is essentially that they can just continue to print. They will print, and then the Fed will put that money into circulation. So we're in this. You're even hearing whispers on Wall Street about just talking about, you know, it's 2% inflation target for forever, and people are like, well. What about 3?
Right.
Maybe we could live at 3. Do you realize what that does to people who save their entire life or people who live on a fixed income? And then they cook the books on CPI, so it's half of what it really is.
Right.
Everyone knows what CPI is. They can look at their Excel bill and their Cub bill and know that things are up 15 to 20% over the last 2 years. And they've got some idiot in Washington telling them it's 7, 8%. They know that's not true. How are you supposed to, if your Social Security, which we still tax here in Minnesota, which we could have wiped out with the budget surplus we have, your Social Security recipient worked your whole life, you have to go buy groceries with less and less money every week, and these idiots in Washington don't care on either side of the aisle about doing anything about it. And when you zoom out to the whole rest of the world, the only reason that the dollar hasn't gone to zero is the fact that the entire rest of the world is like equally or more incompetent. But people everywhere suffer as a result of these policies. I mean, inflation always and everywhere is a monetary problem, and we just continue to print it. And that's going to be the answer for all these things for the long time. And I don't.
Yeah,
think
but it's
there's
just
gonna be the will.
I don't think it lasts that much longer.
No,
because interest
it
rates are going up. They're
breaks.
trying to curb it.
Yep.
And so when you finance treasuries at 5%, which is double where it was a couple years ago, and that matures within a year or two.
Every year we're going to pay more. So that's
every
the whole
year's
thing
more,
about your
And then, by the way, we pay more, and we only print more. We take out another credit
yes,
card, right, to pay
this
the
is
credit
how it
card
turns
debt.
into hyperinflation, right? So to continue,
Right.
you keep taking out a credit card to pay your bill. Well, that's going to break at some point.
And the other problem here is the interest rates going up. How many firms, banks, companies are dependent on those low interest rates? And we learned there's actually quite a few banks that are.
That's right.
So the more it goes up, which actually helps savers finally, because that's who's been suppressed, is the savers don't get an interest rate or rate of return on their investments. Now you got all these people addicted to low interest rates. It's what happened in the housing market. And so, by the way, there's the big bubble right there, the housing market.
And no one, I don't think, has talked about the fact that a lot of these banks have this, because interest rates have gone up so fast, have this massive S&L type imbalance where they have assets that are paying them at 3%, 3.5% that they cannot shift. And they now have to provide CDs and savings accounts at 5.5%. Having a gap like that is absolutely massive. And then you shrink liquidity in many of these markets, or there's smaller banks that, the whole idea is destroy all these small banks and get them so Jamie Dimon can buy them up for pennies on the dollar and roll them up into JP Morgan. And your average person suffers, like always.
Always. Yeah, I don't see a solution to it. So I'm not bullish on the long-term economics of America.
I used to be very depressed about it, but then you look around the world and you're like, who else? Like, what other debt are they going to buy?
I know, they all do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Europe does it. China does it.
And people talk about some kind of, oil or other commodity-backed BRICS currency. These guys all run various levels of corrupt and inefficient governments. They're not going to agree on unified currency, and they're certainly not going to run a clean, corruption-free system.
But even if everyone across the country, because I think the Great Depression was a global depression, I think that's what's going to happen again. It's still going to be painful and is caused by these politicians. Like, that's it. They screwed us over. And it's not just that. They're screwing us over with World War III. Rodeo 55 says, thank you, Dr. Shaw. How many of you guys like Dr. Shaw being on the program? I think he's like, the interesting thing is we talked about legal stuff. Here we are talking about monetary policy at the end. We didn't even really get into the science.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Before we leave, and then I definitely want you want to do this more regularly Thursdays.
Happy to come by.
Yeah, we want to have you on. I think people like it. Certainly Rodeo 55 likes you. This story from the Florida Surgeon General. You saw this, right? Recommending against getting the booster shot?
Yeah, that guy's a warrior, Joseph Ladapo. It's awesome. Like, he's the one state surgeon general who's doing the right thing. Because, look, there is no evidence. Again, it's 20 mice worth of data. And the FDA, if it did its job, would demand human trials, longer-term safety data, any number of things to say whether these things are both efficacious and safe. We can't rely on test tube in vitro or mice data to decide if we should put things into humans. We don't do that for any other drug.
They did in vitro. That's the human
That's what they've done for
component.
the last two boosters. It's all in vitro data, and then mouse data. So we don't approve drugs on that basis. Why are we continuing to do this? And no other established country in the world, not Germany, France, Sweden, Britain, is using these mRNA vaccines. Some of them have outright banned them unless you're over a certain age or have a certain number of comorbidities. And here in America, we're talking about giving them to every healthy 6-month-old in the country.
6-month-old. Can you believe that?
Yeah. And in their modeling, it's unclear if a single a single life in a pediatric patient will be saved.
Right.
Wow.
And we know for sure that we're going to get myocarditis increases that will lead to structural scarring in the heart and heart failure or heart attacks down the road. So we know there's going to be a negative. It's unclear if there will be a positive. Why? Why is this being done?
Well, I mean, we need profits here for Pfizer and Moderna. I don't know if I just tempted fate and got us in the doghouse again with YouTube.
Probably
you know?
did.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's
that's
what
it.
got
You're
us in there
right.
last
Could
time. Neil, Dr. Neil. All right. Well, we appreciate
We
everyone.
could have just talked about aliens, okay, and then you would.
Yes, that's why I try. See, I was trying to talk about aliens this whole time, but these guys wouldn't let me do it. They said, "Oh no, there's other stories that got to be talked about." Apparently, Hunter Biden's indictment too, which was breaking news. Breaking news. Thank you guys for commenting here. Thank you for the Rumble rants today. I really appreciate that. I will not be doing the Truth Hurts show for the next 2 weeks. I got some things going on. Not that I'm gonna miss you guys. Trust me, we'll be back. Jesse wants to do a revival of his college radio show called Jesse Talks Truth. I'm so excited. It's going to go into the evening hours, 7 o'clock at night, okay? You can still watch after the fact, but if you want to do live, it's going to be at 7 o'clock at night, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Did you confirm that works for you, Dawson?
Yep, that works for me.
William, I'm in negotiations with William to get back on the show. That was half the reason I want to do the nights is because William is now teaching, is shaping young minds, even the little Shaws out there, right?
He is.
I don't know if he's in the
Best school in Minnesota.
Yep. So hopefully we'll get William back on it. So stay tuned Tuesday and Thursday nights, the next 2 weeks, 7 p.m. Jesse Talks Truth. I'm taking a big risk here. Huge career risk giving this guy that much microphone.
Watch out. Yeah. Yeah. The Truth Hurts is where, you get the truth that you won't hear from the mainstream media. Jesse Talks Truth is where you get the truth that you won't hear from the Truth Hurts. So get ready for that.
That should be
Space
that
lasers.
should be the tagline right there. Oh my God, that's so good.
We'll
Okay.
make it happen.
Stay tuned. Thanks, Neil, for coming here. Dawson for running the dials. You guys at home for commenting. Thank you. And Jesse, we'll see you on Tuesday. Take care.